So to get these two in a groove, we just arrived at the park. I am doing lots of turning and stopping and sitting. These are two very, very young dogs. They are not suffering from any anxiety or anything like that right now, maybe just a lack of focus. And so when you get a dog that's got a lack of focus, maybe due to their age, you want to stop a lot, do a lot of intervals of stopping and sitting. You might only be able to take 3-4 steps and your dog is gone and you can stop and sit. But do you see how slow I'm doing it? It's not like this fast sit, food, heel. I mean, it's very, very slow, very controlled. The other thing that I'm doing with the larger sheepdog, Bali, is I'm trying to get her auto sits in. Now, Nyla's doing them beautifully. Auto sits mean I don't even have to say sit. I just stop and they sit. But Bali still needed some work on them. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing between just gentle pressure up and low-level e-collar pressure. Sometimes I do leash, sometimes e-collar. I'm varying that up till I don't need it anymore. And it's rinse and repeat. We really did this on the small strip for about 10 minutes. It's just turn and several stop and sits. So you really want to drill this into your dog. And I'm doing my turns slowly. You should anyway, to give your dog a chance to catch up without having to build speed. But I'm also going very slow because I'm walking two dogs and I don't want to just, overrun Nyla. And so whenever I'm walking the side with the big dog, Bali, my arm is very loose and relaxed because she's on the outside. With Nyla, it's tucked behind me a bit, so make sure I don't step on her. The pressure is back, so she lets me move in front of her to turn. So definitely take some practice when you're doing engagement work, which is what this is, with two different dogs. But anyway, just be nice and patient. There's no need to rush. There's no need to pull out food to build speed right now. That could just cause a lot more excitement, which can make it more difficult with two dogs especially. That's just not really my style. We do food work, but it's more in the house and repetitions inside most of the time, unless I'm dealing with fear. That's usually the exception. But anyway, now that we've worked on our structure aspect of it, I want to get them on a long line. And really just work them. It's very quiet tonight. I did stop the camera a few times as people walked by, but it's very manageable with them. And little Nyla can get concerned with certain things like barking dogs and people behind her. She can get pretty anxious. And honestly, long leash work is great for that. It can really give the dogs a chance to breathe, make them feel like they're able to breathe a bit. And I wanted to work them together, so I just wanted to see if I could. I've been doing it in the yard, and I'm like, let's do a couple of sessions at the park, see if it's manageable. Bali, the big one, likes to go into zoomies, takes a while to calm her down, and likes to try to play with Nyla constantly. So Nyla has to potty, and I'm tapping. So every time that Bali doesn't turn with me, doesn't move with me, I tap the e-collar, and we got someone coming, so I asked her to come to me and sit. If I was worried at all about Nyla or Bali, see what I'm doing right there? I step on the leash. Why? Because of safety. Not because I think they're going to react or anything, but what if they try to just follow the bike? They might scare the biker. So that stepping on the leash was just a safety. Dog needs to be really solid and chill if you don't do that kind of stuff. And all I'm doing here is I'm giving so little information to them. That's key here, guys. It's not like before with heel and auto sits. This is just move when I move and stop when I stop. So if I turn, you turn with me, which a lot of times Bali does not. So that's why, she's the one we're really focusing on. And Nyla, when she gets worried, she tends to just try to get out of the way. There it is. You saw me. Yeah, it was a correction right there. So just to reiterate the play, and so I'm ready, I tap e-collar right there. And I think I do it again because she's still bouncing. Then I wave her on and she goes to my other side. So that might be like, oh, that's no fun. But what I'm doing is I'm setting expectations and boundaries for my walk. And if you want a good walk, you've got to do the same. Because she went in to try to play with Nyla, and I caught her early. They weren't rolling around together. You want to try to catch that early. But anyway, with Nyla's anxiety that can pop up sometimes to make her pull ahead or try to get away, this gives her some freedom. She's not so restricted to heel position, and it can build a lot of confidence in your dog. Now, some dogs, they do better with more structure. I think dogs need both. And then you find the balance of what works best with the hyper-structured walks versus a little bit of loose leash work. But that's all I'm doing. It's so simple. I do turns, and if they don't turn with me, I tap Ecollar. Sometimes I say verbal as well, especially because they're so young. I'll give them that extra help. But if I go, let's go, and they get super excited, or even if I go, let's go, and they just go into excitement mode, I would much rather do leash pressure or an e-collar tap. And they can get out ahead of me. That's not a problem. They can switch sides. They can sniff as long as it doesn't change their pace. As long as they don't stop and get stuck on sniffing, they can sniff. Now, if it looks like Nyla, the little one, is stuck to me like glue, kind of see that man back there? He was having a phone conversation and sometimes really raising his voice. And that made Nyla pretty nervous. And so sometimes she would stay glued to me rather than be more relaxed. And so little things like that, you learn about that, about your dog. Learn how they need to be advocated for. You see, she actually stopped back there. I didn't even notice because she did catch up, but she was stopping looking at him. And it's like you learn a lot about your dog when you stop compromising their brain with so much food and verbal and guidance, and you just work on these bare bones basics of move when I move, stop when I stop. And the only thing you say is no, don't do that. No, don't do that. And then let them problem solve. I know this is a boring video, that's why I'm talking through all of it and coaching you on the concept of it as I go. If they were to shoot out ahead of me, like you kind of saw Bali do in the beginning, rather than saying N-O and trying to make them heel, I just tap. I might say no if it's like really intense zoomies, but I just turn. I take them going out ahead of me and I counteract it by turning and going in the other way over and over and over again. Now, sometimes that doesn't always work to calm down a dog, but if your dog is already in a decent state of mind, you're not working through anything super, super tough, it should work beautifully. And then you can work on that at the park and then have a dog that is comfortable sniffing and quote unquote being a dog, but still have great listening skills. I just threw in a down. I don't know if you guys noticed. When I do the move when I move, stop when I stop, I just freeze. I don't tell the dogs to do anything. But I just decided to practice a down to a come and then into movement again because they're doing so good. So anytime you have a dog lay down and then come to you, they're going to build up a lot of speed. And then if I turn it into a let's go, if they zoom past me, and they're not paying attention. They're just going off of fun, woohoo, come. And so that's just like a little trick. If your sessions are getting too boring, throw in a few downstate, come into a let's go. A little bit of fancy work, and it can just help really focus them in nicely. And I'll just say one more thing. We might work at this for 10 minutes. That's really useful, or 30 minutes. And I don't suggest that you work off of a path. It was easier to do it because it was late. Things happening one at a time, and I needed the light for the video. That's all. Otherwise, I do not suggest that you work on a path unless you're really comfortable with your dog and your ability with your dog, because a long line can really hurt someone. Okay, have to put my responsibility check in there, and good luck.